explosive it almost sounds unbelievable. A narrative ripped from a sports movie script. A coach walking away from a generational talent. The most hyped prospect in the history of the sport. It suggests a level of chaos so profound, so deeply rooted that it threatens to tear the entire organization apart from the inside out. A structural rot that no single player can fix. Fans are demanding answers, flooding comment sections and call-in shows with theories and frustrations. And the silence from the front office too is terrifyingly real. Music, and what's been happening behind closed doors in the locker room and in the executive offices is far worse, far more dysfunctional than anyone outside the organization could have ever imagined. The stakes aren't just about a losing season anymore. They're about the future of a league are failing, and they are failing spectacularly. They're not just losing games and how to squander a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This false rumor about Stephanie White isn't just a mistake or a simple misunderstanding. It's a symptom of a fan base. She was handed the golden ticket in Caitlin Clark, a player who guarantees sold-out arenas and record-breaking television ratings. But that ticket came with an impossible price. Immediate, flawless success. Instead, she's presiding over a team that leads the league in turnovers and defensive lapses. A team that often looks like they've just met for the first time in the parking lot before the game. Her public comments have started to sound less like a coach, instilling confidence, and more like someone pleading for a life raft in the middle of a hostile ocean. She talks endlessly about the need for more toughness, about how her players need to expect the physicality of the WNBA, but her words feel hollow, like a broken record. Music when the on-court product is so consistently chaotic and soft, strategic adjustments appear to be non-existent. Defensive schemes crumble after the first opponent's screen. Lineups are shuffled with no clear logic or reason, sending a message of desperation rather than strategy. The team's offense, which should be a high-powered machine built around the gravitational pull of Clark, often devolves into playground basketball with players looking lost, disconnected, and frustrated with one another. It's become painfully clear to anyone watching that Sides is not just being out-coached by her opponents. She's being fundamentally overwhelmed by the moment, by the sheer magnitude of the job. The pressure of managing the Caitlin Clark media circus, developing a roster filled with other young lottery picks, and trying to win games all at once seems to have pushed her to her breaking point. She's no longer just coaching a basketball team. She's the unwilling captain of a sinking ship, publicly rearranging the deck chairs while the hull fills with water. And she seems to have no idea how to plug the holes. And what happened next to the general manager, Lynn Dunn, the architect of this entire experiment, the one who drafted Clark and hired Sides. While she never uttered Stephanie White's name in any public forum, her recent statements have been interpreted by insiders and analysts as a damning indictment of the current situation. In the carefully managed world of professional sports, GMs rarely fire a coach mid-sentence in a press conference. Instead, they use coded language. A sort music of corporate speak designed to send a message without causing an immediate explosion. And Dunn has been chillingly clear in accountability while the team is in a nosedive. It's a public signal that their patience has worn thin. This is the confirmation that rumors were built on. Dunn isn't confirming a story about a former coach. She is confirming in her own cryptic and calculated way that the current state of the franchise is completely and utterly unacceptable. She is putting Christie Sides on notice in front of the entire world, letting the media and the fans know that the status quo is not an option. Every carefully chosen word is a warning shot across the bow. A clear message that if things don't turn around and turn from the locker room to the training facility. To make matters even worse, to add a layer of cosmic cruelty to the situation while the Fever are publicly imploding, the ghost of their past is thriving. Stephanie White, the subject of the false rumor, is now the head coach of the Connecticut Sun, and she has them playing like a well-cohesive and execute with a military precision. They are in every conceivable way the absolute antithesis of the Indiana Fever. Every time the Sun win another game, what if scenario that haunts the franchise? What if a coach with White's experience, her calm demeanor, and her steady hand were guiding Caitlin Clark through the treacherous waters of her rookie season? Would the team be this chaotic? Would the losses be piling up this quickly and this embarrassingly? It seems highly unlikely. Stephanie White's success has become an unintentional weapon against Christy Sides and Lynn Dunn. She represents a standard of excellence that their franchise is currently nowhere near achieving. It's not about her quitting over drama. It's about her representing a level of competence that makes the Fever's current struggles look even more pathetic and inexcusable by comparison. Her success is the salt in a very deep, very fresh wound, proving to the world that leadership is everything. Music, and the Fever's at this crucial moment in their history is catastrophically and undeniably failing. That catastrophic failure in leadership appears to be ripping the locker room apart at the seams. The narrative of a divided team is no longer a whisper among insiders. It's a visible, tangible reality on the music court for millions to see. The incident involving Chicago Ski's Kennedy Carter, where she delivered a cheap shot, a blindside hip check to Caitlin Clark, was just the tip of the iceberg. The more telling part, the part that sent alarm bells ringing across the league, was the reaction, or more accurately, the stunning lack of reaction from Clark's own teammates. No one immediately rushed to her defense. No one confronted Carter. The chemistry, which was supposed to be building around their new superstar, looks fundamentally broken, perhaps beyond repair. Watch closely during the games. After a missed shot or a costly turnover, Clark's frustration is visible. Her shoulders slump, but the support from her teammates often feels performative at best or non-existent at worst. Players like Aaliyah Boston, last year's Rookie of the Year and the supposed co-star of the future, often looks disconnected from Clark on the floor, an unwilling participant in the heliocentric offense. The fluid, dynamic two-woman game that fans and analysts dreamed of has been replaced by awkward possessions, forced passes, and missed opportunities that scream of a lack of communication vision. Whatever the cause, the result is a team that doesn't play like a team. They play like five individuals trying to survive on an island, and that internal fracture is making them easy prey for the rest of the league. In the middle of it all, at the very center of this swirling vortex of chaos, is Caitlin Clark herself. And the unspoken part of this crisis is the problem she creates. Just by being who she is. This isn't about her attitude or a critique of her immense talent. It's about the sheer suffocating inhuman weight of her superstardom. She arrived in the WNBA not just as a rookie, but as a cultural phenomenon, a figure tasked with saving and revolutionizing a league overnight. That level of pressure is inhuman, an impossible burden for any two-year-old to carry, and the cracks are beginning to show. Her turnover numbers are historically high for a rookie, a product of trying to do too much on a team that offers little support. Her visible frustration with the referees and the brutal physicality of the game has led to technical fouls and on-court outbursts that are dissected on every sports talk show. She's being targeted by opponents every single night, treated less like a rookie and more like a one-year veteran who must be physically dominated into submission. The Caitlin Clark effect has brought charter flights, sold-out arenas, and multi-million-dollar media deals, but it has also created an environment of such intent. They are trapped in a perfect storm, a confluence of disastrous elements. They have a general manager who is publicly signaling her profound displeasure through coded threats. They have a head coach who looks completely out of her depth, lost in the glare of the spotlight. They have a locker room that appears fractured, resentful, and devoid of the chemistry needed to win. And they have a superstar player who is struggling mightily under the weight of impossible expectations and physical abuse from opponents. The season is still young, but the trajectory is pointing towards a complete and total disaster, a historic failure that could set the franchise back for years. Lynn Dunn is facing an ultimatum, one largely of her own making. Does she fire Christy Sides mid-season? A move that would be a shocking and humiliating admission of failure, but might be necessary too. Salvage what's left of the year? Does she look to make a major trade, shaking up the team's questionable chemistry by moving a key piece, perhaps even last year's #1 pick, Aaliyah Boston? Or does she let it all burn, hoping that the team somehow finds its footing through sheer luck? A prospect that looks less likely with each embarrassing, nationally televised loss. The Stephanie White rumor was a distraction, a piece of fake news that pointed to a very real problem. The issue was never about a coach who left the team nearly a decade ago. The issue is that the current leadership seems completely and utterly incapable of handling the single greatest opportunity the franchise has ever been given. A final shocking move feels not just possible, but agonizingly inevitable. In the end, the viral rumor was a fantasy, a simple, digestible story created to explain a complex and ugly reality. Stephanie White didn't quit over Caitlin Clark. But the truth is infinitely more damning for the Indiana Fever. The organization, from the front office down to the last player on the bench, was fundamentally structurally unprepared for the force of nature they drafted. They were given a golden goose in Caitlin Clark, a player who could print money and build a dynasty. But instead of building a golden palace, they seemed to be presiding over a chaotic, dysfunctional barnyard. The franchise is now at a terrifying crossroads, a pivotal moment that will define their future, them closer to a breaking point that could shatter the team completely. The question is no longer if they can win a championship this year, but if they can even survive the season without a full-scale implosion that scars their young superstar. Music. Will the Caitlin Clark era be looked back on as the moment the Indiana Fever finally turned a corner and became a marquee franchise? Or will it be remembered as a tragic cautionary tale, the year that the brightest star in basketball was brought to a franchise so dysfunctional it managed to extinguish her light before she ever truly had a chance to shine? The whole world is watching, holding its breath, music, waiting for the